Your thoughts are killing you and you don't even know it, but the ancient Stoics did. They built a system so brutal, so honest, that it doesn't just manage negative thinking, it destroys it. If you want peace, power, and a mind no one can shake, this is what you must learn. In this video, we'll walk through 10 brutal Stoic laws that will completely rewire your mind. These are not motivational quotes. These are mental weapons used by philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus to silence anxiety, kill self-doubt, and gain complete control over their emotions. If you're tired of negativity owning your life, this is how you take it back. Let's begin. Negative thinking doesn't announce its arrival. It creeps in silently through self-doubt, through judgment, through expectations not met and fears not spoken. Most people don't even notice it taking root until it has already shaped their worldview. But the Stoics, they declared war on it from the very beginning. For them, the mind was a battlefield, and victory was only granted to those who trained like warriors. They understood that thoughts have power, but that you have more. They saw emotions not as enemies, but as wild animals to be tamed, and not by force, but by understanding. And so, in the ancient courts of Rome and on the windy cliffs of Greece, Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca carved brutal mental laws that didn't just challenge negativity, they obliterated it. These laws weren't soft suggestions or motivational quotes. They were hard truths forged from suffering, loss, discipline, and wisdom. And today, in a world louder than ever, where anxiety and distraction rule, their words cut deeper than any modern self-help book. To rewire your mind, you don't need more positivity. You need less delusion, less dependence on external validation, less ego, more clarity. And that's where the Stoic approach shines. Because it doesn't ask you to pretend everything's fine, it dares you to see things as they truly are and act. From that place of brutal clarity, it doesn't promise comfort, it promises strength. Imagine waking up and no longer being ruled by your thoughts. No longer reacting to criticism, rejection, or chaos with emotional turbulence. Imagine facing a bad day and simply saying, "So what?" Not out of apathy, but from power. That's the mindset Stoicism offers. A mind that no longer spins in circles of negativity, but stands firm like a rock amidst crashing waves. But this kind of inner mastery doesn't come naturally. It's earned. It's built law by law, thought by thought, moment by moment. The Stoics believed your mind could be trained just like the body, but only if you were willing to discipline it with fierce honesty. They understood that the only thing worse than pain is an untrained mind's reaction to it. So how do you begin? You begin by accepting that negative thinking is a form of weakness, not identity. You are not your moods, you are not your anxious thoughts, you are the observer. And once you realize that, you gain leverage. You learn to respond instead of react. You learn that no one can offend you without your permission. You learn that most fears are hallucinations, not facts. But perhaps the most brutal truth of all, the one Stoics repeated constantly, is this: your mind is your responsibility. No one is coming to fix it. It's harsh, but it's liberating, because once you stop waiting for peace to arrive and start building it from within, your entire reality shifts. The storms don't stop, but you stop being blown around by them. People still lie, criticize, and disappoint, but your sense of self no longer depends on their behavior. And your thoughts, they may still arise, but they no longer own you. This is not philosophy for the bookshelf. This is philosophy for war, mental war, emotional war, life war. And if you want to survive, and not just survive, but thrive, you must internalize these Stoic laws like a soldier memorizing the rules of battle. Each law will challenge you. Each one will demand you let go of an old excuse, an old fear, an old lie. But if you're brave enough to follow through, your mind will become sharper, stronger, and quieter than ever before. You will no longer be shaken by temporary emotions. You will no longer lose sleep over things you cannot control. You will no longer confuse comfort with happiness, because you'll know the truth, that your mind was always the battlefield and Stoicism was always the weapon. The second step in killing negative thinking isn't learning how to feel better, it's learning how to see clearer. Stoicism doesn't soothe your emotions with fantasy. It clears the fog so you can see reality as it truly is. The Stoics believed that much of human suffering isn't caused by events themselves, but by the stories we attach to them. When you tell yourself, "This shouldn't be happening," or "I can't handle this," you're not describing reality or distorting it. You're adding unnecessary weight to something that was already heavy. The Stoic path begins when you stop asking reality to be different and start aligning yourself with the truth of what is. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you gain the power to act without being emotionally enslaved. When Marcus Aurelius lost his children, he didn't scream at the heavens. He reminded himself that death is a part of nature. When Epictetus, born a slave, was tortured until his leg was broken, he simply said, "There, didn't I tell you it would break?" Not from coldness, but from clarity. He had already prepared his mind for what others would be shattered by. This is where the second brutal Stoic law comes into play. Expect everything. Entitlement is the seed of misery. Most people walk around with invisible expectations. They expect fairness. They expect love to be returned. They expect people to be loyal. And when life inevitably shatters these illusions, they collapse. But Stoics, they expect hardship. They train for betrayal. They rehearse disaster not to be paranoid, but to be unshaken. The negative mind is a reactive one. It meets life's surprises with panic and resistance. The Stoic mind, however, has already anticipated adversity and prepared its response. That's the essence of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It's the habit of mentally rehearsing loss, pain, and failure before they happen, not to attract them, but to become immune to them. The warrior who has already bled in training does not fear the battlefield. The mind that has already considered every outcome does not flinch when fate arrives. This isn't cynicism, it's strategy. The more you expose yourself to the possibility of loss, the less power loss has over you. When you accept the fragility of all things, your health, your relationships, your reputation, you don't become depressed. You become free. You begin to live not in fear, but in awareness. Every moment becomes sharper. Every experience becomes deeper. Because you know, this could be the last. And that realization kills the entitlement that breeds negative thinking. Another brutal Stoic law: you suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca wrote that most of our fears are fabrications. We mentally build disasters that never happen and emotionally live through pain we never actually experience. The Stoics weren't immune to fear, but they interrogated it. They would ask, is this thought true? Is this danger real? Or am I just spiraling? They believed in facing fear the way a doctor examines disease, with calm detachment, not emotional surrender. So how do you implement this? Start noticing your internal language. When something goes wrong, do you catastrophize? Do you say, this is the worst, or I'll never recover? That's not reality, that's poison, and your mind drinks it daily. The Stoic rewires this by replacing exaggeration with exactness. Instead of "my life is ruined," say, "this is difficult, but I'm capable." Instead of "everyone's against me," say, "some people disagree, and that's okay." The words you use shape the lens you see the world through. Change the words, and the world itself begins to change. Brutal law number 4. Your opinion is your pain. Epictetus said, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. You lose a job, that's an event. You say, I'm a failure, that's an opinion. You get rejected, that's reality. You think, I'll never be loved, that's fiction. If you want to kill negativity, you must separate fact from fiction. You must challenge every interpretation, every assumption, every belief that fuels your suffering. This takes mental discipline. It takes the courage to question yourself daily. And most people won't do it, because it's easier to complain than to confront your mind. But Stoicism doesn't offer ease, it offers freedom. And the price of that freedom is self-mastery. When you stop blaming others for your inner state, you take back the power to shape it. You stop being a victim of your emotions and start becoming the architect of your peace. And that's the core idea here. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of perspective. A negative mind will always find a problem even in paradise. A Stoic mind will find purpose even in pain. The difference isn't the situation, the difference is the lens. So, ask yourself now how much of your suffering is rooted in false expectations. How many of your thoughts are unverified assumptions? How often do you allow external events to shape your internal state? If you answered too often, then good, you're awake now. And from this place of awareness, you can begin to challenge the default programming that keeps negativity alive. Because here's the truth, the modern world won't tell you. You don't need to feel better, you need to think better. And thinking better doesn't mean pretending bad things are good. It means recognizing that you don't have to be destroyed by them. You can observe your emotions without being consumed. You can experience setbacks without forming new scars. You can face life's chaos with a still mind and a steady soul. That is what Stoicism trains you for. Not perfection, but power. Not detachment from life, but detachment from delusion. Not the elimination of emotion, but the elevation of wisdom. And the more you internalize these brutal Stoic laws, The more your mind becomes a fortress, one that negative thinking can't penetrate, you become less reactive, less fragile, less caught up in imaginary drama. And in that space, clarity rises, strength rises, you rise. Because the truth is, you don't need a new life, you need a new lens. And the Stoics handed you that lens 2000 years ago. The third brutal Stoic law that kills negative thinking is this: you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of them. Most people believe every thought that enters their mind. They identify with the voice in their head, even when it lies, even when it shames, even when it spirals into darkness. But the Stoics taught something radically different, that you are not your thoughts, your fears, or your moods. You are the one who notices them, and in that noticing lies your freedom. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that his mind was his own, and everything else, his body, his status, his suffering, was temporary. You have power over your mind, he wrote, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not just philosophy, it's strategy. Because when you stop fusing your identity with every thought you have, you create space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lives. That space is where the Stoic breathes, reflects, and acts with wisdom instead of emotion. This is the battlefield of the mind. And like any warrior, you must train for it daily. Brutal law number 4. Discipline is greater than motivation. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. Negative thinkers rely on feeling good to act. Stoics act regardless of how they feel. Seneca wrote, "A man is as unhappy as he is convinced himself he is." Notice the word convinced, because feelings often lie. They are shaped by sleep, food, weather, and past trauma. If you trust your feelings more than your reason, you'll be led like a dog on a leash, dragged by every emotional storm that passes through. So how do you break that cycle? You train yourself to act even when you feel low. You wake up early even when you feel tired. You exercise even when you feel lazy. You speak calmly even when you feel angry. Not to repress your emotions, but to master them. Because every time you choose discipline over impulse, you weaken the grip of negative thinking. You show your mind, I am in control, not my moods, not my fears, not my cravings. This self-discipline is not cold or robotic, it is the foundation of inner peace. A mind that obeys itself does not panic. A mind that has been tempered in discomfort does not collapse when tested. This brings us to brutal law number 5. Comfort is a trap. Seek discomfort to grow. The modern world is obsessed with comfort, but the Stoics knew that comfort breeds weakness, and weakness breeds negativity. They deliberately exposed themselves to hardship. Seneca would sleep on the floor, eat basic food, and wear rough clothes not out of masochism, but out of preparation. He wanted to prove to himself that he could endure poverty, loss, and discomfort without breaking. If you only live inside comfort, then every difficulty will feel like a crisis. But if you seek discomfort voluntarily through fasting, cold exposure, hard conversations, physical training, then your mind becomes resilient. It learns that suffering is survivable, that struggle is strengthening, that you are far more capable than you've been told. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something difficult on purpose? When did you last put yourself in a situation that scared you, challenged you, or humbled you? Because every time you do, you kill a piece of the weak self, the self that complains, doubts, hesitates, and blames. And in its place, you build the Stoic self, the self that endures, adapts, and acts with courage. That's why brutal Stoic law number 6 is this: do not waste time arguing with reality. Most negative thinking is nothing more than mental resistance to what is. You get rejected, and you mentally replay it 100 times. You lose money, and you curse the economy. You get sick, and you scream at the unfairness of life. But the Stoics taught that peace comes the moment you accept what has happened, not agree with it, not enjoy it, but accept it as fact. Epictetus said, "Seek not for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do." This doesn't mean you become passive or give up, it means you stop fighting what cannot be changed. There is no virtue in trying to change the past. There is only wasted energy, which fuels negative thinking and helplessness. Acceptance, then, is not surrender, it's a power move. It redirects your energy from why me, to what now. From regret to responsibility. From emotion to execution. And that leads to brutal law number 7. Responsibility is the cure for victimhood. Negative thinking thrives in minds that blame others. It's their fault. I had no choice. Life is unfair. These are the slogans of a powerless person. But the Stoic doesn't look outward, he looks inward. He says, what part did I play in this? What can I do differently next time? How can I grow through this? This isn't self-blame, it's self-liberation. Because when you take responsibility, you take your power back. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. He could have blamed advisors, armies, or enemies, but his meditations are full of personal accountability. He held himself to a higher standard than the world expected. That's the Stoic way, not waiting for others to fix the world, but becoming the kind of person who can thrive in any world. Negative thinkers wait for life to be easier. Stoics train for life to be harder, and in that difference lies everything. Because when your mind is forged in discipline, clarity, and self-responsibility, negative thoughts may still visit, but they never stay. They knock on the door, and your higher self answers, calm, ready, unshaken. This is what the ancient Stoics knew and what modern minds must remember. Strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the result of facing it, every day, with courage and composure. Your thoughts are not facts, your emotions are not commands, and your circumstances do not define your response does. So if you're tired of living inside a storm of negativity, step onto the Stoic path, accept reality, train in discomfort, separate truth from opinion, and above all, reclaim your power as the master of your mind, not its victim. The Stoic doesn't wait for peace, he becomes peace, and so can you. The eighth brutal Stoic law to kill negative thinking is this: death is the greatest motivator. To the untrained mind, the thought of death causes fear, panic, or despair, but to the Stoic, it is a compass, a guide back to what matters. You could leave life right now, Marcus Aurelius wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This isn't morbid, it's liberating, because when you remember death, you stop wasting your life. Negative thinking often emerges from meaningless worries, what others think, what might happen, what you lack, what you've lost. But memento mori, remembering death, wakes you up. It makes you ask, if I died tomorrow, would this matter? Would I be proud of how I lived today? Would I be remembered with honor or with regret? Most people drift through life asleep, arguing about nonsense, scrolling endlessly, avoiding hard truths. The Stoic doesn't drift. He is wide awake, because death isn't a maybe, it's a certainty. And when you know time is short, your thoughts become clear, your actions become bold, and your presence becomes powerful. Death is not your enemy. Forgetting that you'll die, that is the enemy. For it allows you to waste time, surrender your potential, and drown in negativity. But when you face your mortality daily, you cut through the noise. You stop gossiping, stop blaming, stop complaining. You get focused, fierce, free. This leads naturally into brutal law number 9. Live by values, not moods. Your mood is temporary. Your values are eternal. But most people build their life around how they feel in the moment. If they're tired, they quit. If they're scared, they hide. If they're angry, they lash out. But the Stoic doesn't follow moods, he follows principles. What are your principles? What do you stand for, no matter how you feel? Honor, courage, discipline, integrity. These values must become your internal compass. When fear rises, you don't run, you act with courage. When temptation whispers, you don't give in, you act with discipline. When insulted, you don't react, to remain composed, because your self-respect is higher than someone else's insult. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Why? Because he is ruled by emotion. But emotion is a storm, it passes. If you anchor your life to every gust of fear or wave of anger, you will drift endlessly. But if you anchor your life to principle, you become unshakable. And in this unshakable state, we arrive at the 10th and final brutal Stoic law: let go, or be dragged. Negative thoughts thrive in attachment to outcomes, to expectations, to people, to the illusion of control. But life will never be fully under your control. Loved ones will disappoint you. Dreams will change, plans will fail, and the more tightly you grip what cannot be held, the more pain you invite into your life. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That's the line, the only line. And when you cross it trying to control what isn't yours, you suffer. So let go. Let go of needing things to be perfect. Let go of controlling how others see you. Let go of obsessing over what you can't change. And in that release, you will find peace." To let go doesn't mean apathy. It means action without attachment. You do your best, but you are not your results. You speak your truth, but you do not cling to approval. You love others, but you don't demand they stay. This is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength, because the one who lets go is the one who cannot be broken. Look at a tree in a storm. The one that survives is not the one that resists the wind, it is the one that bends with it. Flexibility is not fragility, it is resilience. And so it must be with your mind. Let your thoughts come, let them go. Let emotions rise, let them pass. You are not the storm, you are the sky it moves through. In this space of detachment, the Stoic lives free from the prison of negativity, not because life is easy, not because people are kind, but because he has mastered the only thing that matters, his mind. He does not chase peace, he becomes peace. He does not chase happiness, he lives in alignment. He does not fear death, he uses it as fuel. And in doing so, he transcends the petty, the toxic, the weak. He walks with purpose, speaks with clarity, acts with courage, thinks with discipline, and every step he takes is a quiet rebellion against the chaos of the world. He doesn't need to be loud. His presence speaks for itself. You can be that person, but it will cost you. It will cost you your excuses, your comfort, your dependence on motivation, your addiction to drama. But what you gain is priceless. A mind that cannot be broken, a heart that cannot be shaken, and a soul that no longer fears itself. That is the Stoic path. Brutal, yes, but beautiful, and it is waiting for you right now. If these Stoic laws resonated with you, don't just listen, live them. Take one, apply it today. When you change your mind, you change your world. Subscribe for more content like this, and leave a comment below. Which law hit you the hardest? And remember, your mind is a battlefield, but with Stoicism, you hold the sword.